Okay, everybody, we're on the home stretch. Get that. I'm going to give you two more minutes for the sugar to kick in. What an interesting theme standing outside. I'll wait. It's fine. I can wait. Shh. Anyway, interesting themes outside. That this whole collaboration thing is like awkward for people. It's because we've been divided for so long and so into our own little sections. No, I do this, I do this. And then to see the conversation out there about coming together and working together is quite remarkable. The key is that it's got to continue after we've had this event and it's over. Hey, how many business owners are in here right now? Raise your hand, please. Keep your hand up if you need are having trouble getting good employees. Yeah, same people. How weird. So that's why this next panel is, we all know it. This next panel is so very important. The Fraser Valley's workforce and people it's covering. Because we identified that this is an issue. We can grow our businesses. We can have great ideas for growth. We can have economic development. We can have all this infrastructure. But if you can't get people who are somewhat talented or willing to be trained, or who will show up after you hire them, anybody had that experience? Yeah, exactly. You're hired. Great. See you in the morning. Don't show up. So there are workforce issues as part of infrastructure. I call it part of infrastructure. We're going to have a special panel, and Baneet Braich from CBC is going to come up here and lead the way on today's panel. So, but before we do that, I missed a page. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Do we have a sponsor for this one? No? Good. Well, then we're just going to bring Baneet up. I did miss a page. Okay. Baneet Braich from CBC is going to come up. She's going to set this whole thing up, and we're going to talk about workforce and how UFV could play a role and so many different things. So please give it up to Baneet.
Thank you so much, Don. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am a big fan of the Fraser Valley. I live in Abbotsford, and I'm so grateful to be your moderator today. Now, we're really going to get into what's at the heartbeat of the economy here, and that, of course, is the workforce. Now, as more people call the Fraser Valley home, as you grow your businesses, whether that's agriculture, in tech, as we see more homes and buildings go up in the Fraser Valley, what's really at the core of that is, of course, the workers. You need the employees. So today we're going to get into the importance of investing in the workforce, the skilled work, the big barriers like not enough student seats, and of course, what can be done about it, some of the solutions. So I'm going to start off by introducing some of our panelists here today. So to begin, we have Dr. James Mandigo. He's the Provost and Vice President Academic of the University of the Fraser Valley. Coming up. And we also have Dr. David Burns, who's the Associate Vice President Academic of Kwantlen Polytechnic University. And we have Lacey, Business Manager with Lacey Developments. And Kim Tamminga, who's with Marshall Skills Academy, Marshall Aerospace, Canada. I think we're going to start again by just having a brief introduction, getting to know all of you. So we'll start with Dr. Tamminga here. James.
Yeah, thanks. James Mandigo. Really honored to be here on the traditional territory of the Stalo people, which is where UFV is located all across Stalo. Here at UFV, we have a mandate. We call ourselves the University of the Fraser Valley, but I think if we were to change our name, it would probably be the University for the Fraser Valley. And we really have a commitment to ensuring that we're serving the needs of our community. We're a regional university that has an access mandate, and we take that really seriously in terms of ensuring that 50 years ago, when this university was willed into existence as Fraser Valley College by the community, it was a vision to ensure that young people have a place to come and learn and to gather and to be educated. And that's been so true over the past 50 years and also for the next 50 years and beyond that as well. So thank you.
David?
Hi, I'm David Burns, Associate Vice President Academic at KPU, which is also in the Fraser Valley. With all the UFV focus here, I feel like this is an away game, we just gotta...
We love you, David.
We're gonna play 4 solid lines, we're gonna put pucks on the net, you just gotta want it more. That's
Sing
really
Kumbaya.
Absolutely fantastic. Over to you.
My name's Lesa. My husband and I have a construction company located in Desroches, British Columbia. There you go, home of the world's best beef jerky. So
Is that your husband?
that's not my husband. We both live in Desroches.
Love the enthusiasm.
But that's how hard we ride for our community, right, Corey? So yeah. So we've been in business for 25 years. We've bootstrapped. We've remortgaged our home more times than I'd like to count. And 25 years in, we were recognized as the best custom home builder for the 5th year in a row and 2nd year in a row for best renovator. I sit on the board of UFV, although I'm not here in that function today, as well as BC Construction Safety Alliance, Mission Association for Community Living, Skills Canada, BC, and some other ones I can't remember right now, and I'm just really excited to be here and talk about trades.
And Kim?
So this is the funnest panel I've been on so far. But I have no one out there to cheer for me, but...
Okay, so what about us then?
So again, I'm Kim Tamminga. I work for Marshall Aerospace, specifically with the Marshall Skills Academy. Something that we've already launched in New Brunswick for manufacturing and engineering, where we have implemented the UK apprenticeship model where students or apprentices are first employed and then they go to school 1 day a week. They work for 4 days a week, but they're paid for 5 days a week from their respective employers. Each one of those apprentices starts at the same wage, which is a living wage, even though it is in New Brunswick and not BC, it's a little bit lower. But this program has been really well received by both the public, academia, the employers, and so on. So we're launching the same thing, but for aerospace next year. September 2025 is the target date, where we're going to create aircraft mechanics specifically. That's where we're starting. And then we're looking at partnering again with additional academic institutions to bring forth some bachelor programs specifically for aerospace, delivered in the very same model of the day release model.
So we have aerospace, we have construction, we have our universities, lots to get into today. So, let's get to it. I want to start just by giving us some context. How are each of you preparing students and workers for the local job market here? And why don't we start with Lesa?
So I'm super thankful that we have had 7 employees over our time in business start and complete their red seals with our company. So I firmly believe as employers and in our industry, we need to invest in the people that are there for us. So some of our people have been with us, 17 years plus. We have over 25% women on our team as our field staff, and we're pretty excited about it. And we have over 10% Indigenous peoples as our field staff as well. So I think really having a diverse workforce, it goes from, I think, my son's 16, he's somewhat slave labor right now, up to 71. So really having a diverse workforce and encouraging and supporting people and being there for them. So I know it sounds cheesy, and I know they probably don't feel like it, but I feel like they're family. So we really need to maintain kind of diverse, flexible workforces where we're checking in with our people, where we're there for them, and where we're offering them educational opportunities. So I love using the BC Canada Jobs Grant. We pay pay for all of our team's apprenticeship training. And there's lots of other grants. Summer student grant, we're going to have our first summer student this year. So I think definitely investing in the workforce that you have and ensuring that they're having a really fulsome experience. We want people to be successful personally and professionally. And so some of the people who have left our team are still our trades to this day, our framing contractor, our painting contractor. So I think just really supporting and encouraging your team.
What about yourself, Kim?
Well, so again, I just spoke of the Marshall Skills Academy and that day release model that we're bringing to the aerospace industry, which is, I should remind you, this isn't just to build aircraft mechanics for Marshall Aerospace, but it's to build aircraft mechanics for the entire industry. So we're working with our competitors to build talent for them as well. But in addition to that, I don't know if Alex is in the room here, but I'll be chairing the Women's Leadership Circle with the Abbotsford Chamber of Commerce, where I'm going to be advocating, because I'm a huge advocate for enabling women in the workforce, but it's also about it's also about making sure that businesses enable those women and those with families, including removing barriers that a lot of us have as women, childcare being the #1 issue that we have, flexible work hours. You know, when we're having to do mandatory training for our job outside of work hours, employers tend to forget that we have probably another 4.5 additional unpaid labor hours at home, where we have children, we have husbands, we have housework, we have cooking, we have grocery shopping, all of those things. The other thing that I'm going to be pushing hard on, and there's Ross over there, but with BC Transit, that's one of the biggest issues that we have here, especially for women in this city. There is no public transport to the Abbotsford International Airport. So in today's world, where a lot of young couples don't have 2 vehicles, they have one, often it's the husband that takes the vehicle to work, the wife is taking transit, but businesses can't hire that person because there is no transit to get there. So in addition to that, I'm looking at BC Transit to do things like, well, really reacting to the way women use transit. So we trip chain quite a bit. So we're not going to work and coming home. We're going to work on the way home. We're stopping to pick up kids. We're going grocery shopping. We're doing all these things. And then we're going home, and we're doing it by transit. And BC Transit today and the system that's today just does not support that.
Thank you. And James, what about you? What are some of the programs right now that are supporting students in entering the local workforce?
Yeah, so, you know, as I said at the top, you know, we are a regional access-oriented university, and that's been part of our DNA since we started as a college, the University College, and over the past, since 2008, a university. And, you know, we offer 147 different credentials, ranging from continuing education courses to micro-credentials to Red Seal, diplomas, degrees, the whole gamut. The only thing we can't offer are PhD programs. And so, you know, what that means, and 94% of those credentials, those programs, you can ladder into another program, which means opportunities to upskill, reskill, continue. You know, if you want to do your diploma and then, you know, enter the workforce for a couple of years and then come back and finish your degree, those are all opportunities. So that flexibility of being able to support a lifelong journey for students is really important. When you look at the labor market report for British Columbia, you know, we hear this 1 million new jobs. Well, you know, 80% of those jobs are going to require a post-secondary credential. And in the Lower Mainland alone, you know, the 54 professions that are identified in there, you know, 40 of them require some level of post-secondary education. So being able to be accessible to our local community is absolutely critical. You know, for everyone to find their path, to find an opportunity to enter into the university and to be able to be flexible along the way. You know, I mentioned before we have Red Seal, and one of the few, you know, Kwantlen I think is another one as well. But there aren't many universities in Canada that have trades programming, and we are really proud about that. Having trades and red steel programming at a university changes the game, changes who we are as an institution, I think, and really makes us more accessible and offer more opportunities for more people to be part of the post-secondary education system.
And David, what about at Kwantlen?
Well, we just finished actually getting a credit system in place for Red Seal so that if you finish a Red Seal program, you can get credit towards a business degree at KPU, which I'm really excited about because, of course, essentially everybody that goes into trades spends some time either helping to lead or starting their own business, which is really exciting. I am inherently impatient, just in general, and I've tried to take that to how my part of KPU operates. So one of the things I've been focused on for the last couple of years is making sure we can develop new programming responsive to what the community needs much faster than we have in the past. And part of the result of that, and lots of people are involved in these things, is that we've rolled out 5 new technology programs in the last 2.5 years. Video game development, 3D animation. We have virtual effects for virtual production. We're launching cloud security, a short credential this fall to upgrade to protect IT infrastructure in the cloud. We've got front-end development, which is another thing the business community was indicating was needed. And so we're trying really hard to build things at the speed they are required by business and to meet those labor market needs. And the cloud program and the front-end development ones are good examples. I literally looked at the top 10 list of areas where we're going to need people in BC and compared it to a list of what we're good at but don't teach right now.
Yeah, and you just got ahead of me. I was going to ask you, what are those key demands that we're seeing? So that's good to know. And what about you, Lacey? What are you seeing?
So we see a massive demand for HVAC in our community, and unfortunately we don't have HVAC training through UFE, and just in looking at it, a big issue is provincial funding. So Skilled Trades BC funding has not increased in 13 years. It's actually forecast to remain static for the next couple of years as well. So institutions like UFE and KPU are not motivated to introduce those new programs when it comes to skilled trades or have those seats for our students. So HVAC is a big issue. When my carpenters come to me, so we have a new carpenter, Talal, and she said she's not sure when she wants to go to school. And I was like, you still need to register. It's 2 to 3 years out, right? You don't know how long you're going to be waiting. So that wait is really significant on all of those programs. I believe UFE has a wait list of 100 people on the welding program right now. So there are a lot of programs in demand, and we're just seeing with the pace of construction, I don't know if anyone's done a reno or any new build lately, or if you did one 10 years ago, it is a wildly different ballgame than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. So we're dealing with way more regulation, we're dealing with step code, we're dealing with mass timber, and I really appreciate our trades training partners coming to the table and offering micro-credentials, the Future Ready grant from the provincial government, just offering opportunities for people to upskill. So say electricians learning about solar, etc. But definitely HVAC, more money for expanding programming and skilled trades is necessary for us to be responsive to those needs.
You know, we have local airports here. Tell us about the aerospace
Well,
area.
in aerospace, and I'll just target aircraft mechanics, and I think I saw Mike Ashcroft here too. He can probably attest to this over at Cascade. But in Canada, we're currently short about 2,500 aircraft mechanics across Canada. And Transport Canada estimates by 2028, which is really not that far off, we're going to be short about 5,000 aircraft mechanics. It is a extremely valuable competency that our industry has. It is a good value job that aircraft mechanics earn across Canada. They're mortgage paying jobs. And we just don't have enough. I would also argue my industry has not done a great job over the last 10 years at promoting ourselves, which I think is probably something that most sectors probably suffer from. We don't do a very good job of tooting our own horn. And we need to get better at that. We need our young people to understand the jobs that they're looking away from, because these are good jobs, they're important jobs, and they're something that can segue into something even better in the future.
Really, that there's lots of potential here. James, what about at UFE? What are some of the programs?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing growth across the board at our programs. We've, on the domestic side, we've seen growth, you know, this past year of close to 11%, just over 1 year. We set a 7-year enrollment target to grow by 22%, and we're halfway there in 1 year. So that growth we've been talking about, folks, it's here. It's happening, it's already here. And so we're seeing, lots of demand for, not surprisingly, some of the allied health programs. Our nursing program, for example, we're only able to admit 7% of the applicants because of the limited spots, funded spots that we have. Kinesiology, another allied health program. How many of you have children in the K-12 system right now? How many of you have... how many of your children have been taught by a regular teacher on a regular basis? We have a massive teacher shortage in this region, again, because of the growth. And, we have a teacher education program where, again, only 25% of that applicant pool, we're able to take in. And so we're looking at ways that we can increase those spots, when they're not funded by the province. So we self-fund those spots because we know the demand is huge. Trades, as Lesa talked about, waiting lists in a number of our programs, welding, heavy duty mechanical, electrical, those programs in high demand. Again, we have the applicant pool, but the funding to be able to admit those students and the infrastructure to admit those students is quite significant. And Lesa mentioned that she's a member of our board, and the board recently approved a new renovation in our Mission campus to support our teacher education program. It's totally self-funded from our capital projects, and again, because of that commitment to serving the local needs here in the Fraser Valley. But I do fear that our ability to be an access university is slowly deteriorating because we're having more and more applications, the population is growing, and we're already at our capacity in terms of both infrastructure and our funding structure as well, which we could talk about a little bit later on too.
Yeah, growth is good. It shows you that people are interested, right? And of course, there are challenges, and I want to get a bit more into those challenges. So, Lesa, tell us, clearly lots of force behind training folks, getting them into jobs, but what are you really seeing that are struggles, barriers out there?
I love talking to our high schools. I love getting out there. I think in industry, we need to stop complaining about shortages of workers and get out and get our hands dirty and see why those shortages are happening. One immediate shortage that came was Mission Senior Secondary wanted to go to a field trip at C-SPAN, but they required steel-toed footwear. And I tried to cobble together my husband's old boots and everything, and it just wasn't cutting it. But from that, we developed a lending steel-toed footwear boot bank with CHBA Fraser Valley that lives in my garage. And those boots have gone from Hope out to Abbotsford, Chilliwack, anywhere. They've been given to women in the Sarah for Women programs, other things like that. So a simple thing. And I get a call probably every 2 to 3 months from a high school for something simple like hard hats or gloves or something. And if we can't get our students out to these field trips, why are they going to look at these well-paying jobs? My nephew barely graduated high school. I'm not sure whether he graduated or not, still up in the air, but he's earning $80,000 a year right out of high school as a welder. These are living wage jobs, and I think somebody said it earlier, but these are multipliers. So a large portion of my staff earns over 6 figures. We have one person on our team who has a university degree. No offense, I didn't graduate, right? So no offense to university degrees, but you're earning while you learn. You come out of high school and you're earning good money. But if our students don't have access to those things, and something as basic as gloves is holding them back, that's really scary. Canadian Home Builders of BC received a grant of $1 million from the BC government, and that was echoed throughout our province, steel-toed footwear being a barrier. So if you know anyone who has that need, we have a $250 bursary from CHBA BC, but I really encourage you to go into your high schools, see the amazing work that they're doing. GW Graham partnered with Vancouver Film School, and they're offering their very first film festival this year, a high school in Chilliwack, and they won a national prize for welding. Abbotsford School District, Mike Pearson, you guys have an absolute gem. You have a heavy equipment operator program in Abbotsford that they want in every single other corner of this province. So get involved, go talk to your high schools, see what you can do, offer to put on field trips, partner with the other companies in your area, do a day of them, bring freezies, make it fun, and just find out what they need, because honestly, gloves cost $26 for a class, but the outcome of not having those gloves is massive.
Those little efforts can make a huge difference, what I'm hearing. Kim, what about you? I know you talked about, shortages, but any other challenges that really come to mind?
I'm the mother of 3 university-aged children, so I'm experiencing this myself right now, and 2 of them are twins. So I have like no money, and actually I shouldn't say that. My eldest has just graduated and is a public sector employee, but. I would say cost is going to be a huge barrier, and just speaking again from my industry, we have aerospace in this city as a pillar of this community, but the nearest aerospace education center is BCIT at YVR, and students from the Fraser Valley we have 2 different transit systems, BC Transit, TransLink, they don't connect to each other. Our kids can't commute there to go to school, and they have to live out there. So in addition to the tuition, the books, the tools, and all of that, you've got the cost of housing, which is at YVR in Richmond. So if you're going to live anywhere near there, it's going to be extremely costly. My eldest graduated with her first degree from UBC, and her single bedroom in a 4-bedroom dorm was $1,000 a month. And she got really good at getting her food budget down to $50 a week. So I think cost of doing anything is a tremendous barrier, which is what I'm trying to remove with the Marshall Skills Academy, because apprentices don't pay for their education. It's fully funded, and I would like other businesses to start looking at doing things differently.
David, what about yourself at Kwantlen? Particular challenges that are really standing out to you?
Well, one of them is that we can move faster than communities can understand what's happening, both in terms of business and the university system, right? So university choices tend to get solidified somewhere around grade 10, where young people have an idea of where they want to go and a broad idea of what kind of program to take. So if after you go to grade 10, we see generative AI emerge, for example, or a teacher shortage, or a boom in aerospace, it takes quite a number of years to graduate persons in response to that boom. Right? So we're talking 7 years from there, because they have to finish high school and then whatever 4-year program they're in. And that's if we reach them in grade 10, which means that the people we needed to graduate to be ready for Gen AI would have been studying 7 or 8 years ago from today. And so there's always this period in which we're trying as a university system to race up to where the industry is today, which we're really, really focused on, and we're making it faster, but in which we do not yet have students who realize how important it is to have front-end developers or IT cloud people or teachers right now or aerospace people. And so it just takes some time to communicate with communities and families in a way that allows us to shift our attention and our resources and our applications to the places you really need.
How important is it to speak with these students earlier on, right? For me, it was huge in high school, trying to figure out my career and where I'm going. So how important is it?
Well, unfortunately, it remains the case that parents and students tend to have an idea of maybe 6 or 7 professions, and they're typically not in the list of the high-demand professions in British Columbia. And so reaching people early with meaningful opportunities like that to go see the aerospace facility or put on the hard hat to go to a work site. Indigenous kids, this is a very important one. We have a sampler where kids from some of the local First Nations can come and see a bunch of our different programs earlier on to see that it can be welcoming and that life can be like this and that there are good ways to live like that, so that people actually start seeing these as viable options. And there's some pretty good research that says that money is actually not the thing that dissuades people from working class backgrounds from going to university. It's actually culture, especially in places where the loan system is reasonably solid, like it is here. They don't know what the opportunities are. They don't know the culture of the institution. They don't think that people like them can do it, right? I thought the university was one building. When I got to first-year university at the University of Alberta, I was shocked. It was like a village, and I fell down the stairs in one of those lecture halls and then just kind of cried in the hallway until my girlfriend picked me up. It was a really proud moment for me, and that culture is a big gap, and that discourages people that need to go from going and from seeing their full range of options.
I'm curious to know what more universities could possibly do to address that.
Yeah, great question, and I completely agree with what David said here. If you look at the BC transition rates from high school, they're now below 50%. So from grade 12 immediately into post-secondary. So that means less than half of students in grade 12 are transitioning into post-secondary the next year. It picks up a little bit. It goes to about 70%, well, maybe a little bit less, sorry, but maybe about 65% within a couple of years. But what and then it's also about 10% lower for Indigenous learners as well. And so what we're seeing in the system is that less and less students from high school have aspirations of going into post-secondary. Yet, as we talked about before, almost 80% of new jobs are going to require post-secondary education. And so there's going to be a massive gap in terms of the skills that employers are looking for and that eventually students will have. And so this past year, we got together with our local school districts and ran an education leadership summit and worked with our local school districts in identifying what are the gaps, what are the reasons why students aren't transitioning, how do we get them interested in post-secondary, understanding what their options are a lot earlier, breaking down barrier for marginalized students, Indigenous learners, students from diverse backgrounds, and really creating what we're calling a K-16 strategy, so that the whole education system works together to support learners across their educational journey. And that educational journey might end at grade 12. It might end when you're 75 years old. Who knows, right? We're lifelong learners. I think we had someone who just graduated who I think was in their 70s last year with a history degree. So learning never ends. And so, I think that's one thing we've been really focused on here in the Valley, is to really support those transitions, get students interested earlier, get them more aware. Things like dual credit, particularly in our trades programming, where students can come in, they can do the samplers, try some trades, get university credit even before they set foot on campus, is a way to try and get them into experiencing a post-education journey, particularly for those students who are often first gen, who would be the first in their family to pursue post-secondary education. So that culture piece that David talked about, absolutely critical in terms of creating a warm and welcoming environment for our learners to come and enjoy and pursue their educational dreams and aspirations.
Now that overall BC in the next decade or so needs about 1 million jobs to be filled. So we know that, folks in construction, some are retiring. Healthcare is a huge demand. Childcare, we mentioned that. How ready do you all feel to prep this coming workforce? And I'm going to start with Lacey here. What do you think?
So construction represents 10% of our GDP in this province. And while I appreciate the Premier's comments today about healthcare, education, et cetera, all that requires construction. You need somebody to build that school. You need somebody to build that road. You need somebody to build that hospital, right? So I think for me, I am incredibly thankful that we have been in business for 25 years. I think this would be a wildly different ballgame if we had been in business for 5 years. We've had enough time to build up a reputation, and I think I would be very scared being a new trades company and going out there and seeing how you could attract different people. I mean, I think we need to look at everything differently and see where people are coming from. We've seen a mass exodus of our highly skilled trades move to Alberta. And these are tile setters, these are masons, these are trades that we can't develop tomorrow no matter how many years of school they go to. This is learned on the job, this is teamwork, this is building, and we've definitely seen that mass exodus. So I think we're definitely going to see some disruptions, and all of those disruptions actually add more cost to your bottom line, housing affordability. If we don't have the people there to build those homes, those condos, that stuff, all those costs go up. I think for attracting new people, for us, showing our culture, kind of similar to what James said at the university, showing our culture is important. We're not just clocking in and clocking out. We're there for each other. We like having a beer on Friday. That makes a massive difference. We like playing golf. We like getting out. And just really, it's not just about work, right? Meeting people where they are, supporting them when they're down, being there for them when they have those hard days. It's not just about the dollar, absolutely. So.
What about you, Kim?
Well, first of all, just to talk a little bit about addressing young people in our school before I move on. But one of the things I have found, or that I learned having children in the school system, is there is a big change that occurs when they get to grade 9 in terms of the maths. And so I think, and that's what I'm building right now is an engagement program to focus on grades 6, 7, and 8, because when they get to grade 9, they are spun off into either math fundamentals or essentials, or they stay in the traditional maths. And if they don't stay in the traditional maths, it reduces their potential university intake on the other side. And so that's why we want to ensure that we're focusing on the 6, 7, 8 versus grade 10, because by the time grade 10 comes around, that decision has already been made for that young person. But just to echo a little bit of what Lacey's talking about in terms of culture, I mean, I've been in the paid economy for more years than I want to admit, and I've worked in a lot of different cultures, and I've worked for a lot of different companies in different industries. And, I love my industry. It is the coolest thing to in my opinion, to work in. But ensuring that your organization does have a good, inclusive culture that focuses on the employees that work for you, because I know that they're there to earn a paycheck, but they are your ambassadors every time anyone outside of your organization intersects with them. And so, yeah, I really just want to echo what Lisa's saying. What these two are doing to me is really quite amazing.
He's not my husband.
This is the spiciness that we've been told is going to come today.
Rumors.
That's my husband.
Daroche is small enough. We don't need this, actually. Yeah.
Do you have any tips on building that culture? Because I know, how important it can be.
Sorry.
Any tips on building culture?
Well, that's a whole other panel.
Yeah.
Building culture is not something that happens overnight. I've talked to a lot of consultants that say, oh no, I can do it in 90 days. I can convert the company culture, but it really starts from the top down. Leadership sets the tone in any organization, regardless of what you think and how hard you want your people to work. You really, as a leader, set the tone for that. But again, I would recommend another panel
Totally.
on just focusing on culture, because it's bigger than a bread box.
I think one thing that's really important too is getting out of our team's way. So I love that I've gotten to a point where I can send my carpenter Rachel out to go talk to classrooms. I love the fact that I can send my carpenters, Nitsia and Anthony, and they're helping grade 6 students at Michelin Central Elementary to build pencil boxes. I think we also need to get out of our way, right? If you've been on a board for 10, 20 years, get out of the way, right? Make room for other people. Send your people out and really celebrate them, right? Celebrate what they're doing. It can't just be about the bosses at the end of the day as well. Take a step back and really let your people shine in a public arena as well.
Yeah. And, when there's not enough investment, whether that's in programs and staffing and such, what are your biggest worries? So why don't we start with David, actually?
Oh, you faked me up
Yeah,
there. You looked
I know.
at him and then
Yeah.
hopped back over.
Yeah.
Well played. So when you don't invest, at least in the context of the education system, what tends to happen is that we need to focus in on those programs that aren't expensive to run, and the ones that don't require a lot of upfront capital. So we have an advanced manufacturing program, for example, that is enormously expensive to keep the capital investment for that going. Training people to use cutting-edge robots is very, very expensive. And so when you lose investment over time, you're getting new graduates using tools that have been out of date for quite a number of years, right? And all the programs I mentioned before require some kind of a capital and infrastructure startup. And so paying for those things can wane over time. And the other piece is opportunity cost, where you don't actually know what you've missed. So we have in our design school, for example, they've created this pop-up shelter that looks like a tent that you plug an air pump into that will filter wildfire air. So firefighters at the wildfire sites can have a break outside of the clouds of fine particulate matter they're fighting all day long. That's safer. And because it's a design school, they made it so that it can go into a little bag. They had to take it through airport security with me last week, which was awesome and funny all on its own. We're hoping they'll get bailed out soon. But that kind of investment, we don't know that's going to happen when you set up a really good design school and properly fund it. That stuff happens organically in communities of students and academic faculty being creative. And so when you underfund universities over time, there is this other counterfactual world in which more ideas were sprung, more patents were filed, more companies started, and more problems solved that we just don't have access to.
Yeah, wow. There's a whole other panel we could do on this one. I think one thing maybe just to highlight is that, education is an economic driver in our communities. Our UFE's annual contribution to the Fraser Valley is $720 million alone. And the people who stay here, who are employed, contribute back to the communities, the tax system. Our international students who come from all over the world. We now have 73 different countries represented here at UFE. They stay and they contribute to our local economy, 306 jobs annually every year from our international students. And so, I think that the institution itself becomes a part of an economic driver. We did Craig Toes is in the audience, and Craig led when he was here at UFE as our VP External, led an economic impact study on behalf of the university. And in that study, they found that for every dollar invested in a student, the society, the community, gets back $6.06. And what that means is that an educated society is going to earn more, is going to contribute more back to society, is going to rely less on social services, is going to be healthier in the long run. All those determinants of health, education is one of those main drivers. And so, by not investing in education in our communities, it's just you won't have the workforce. And we won't have the economic engine to support the things that we want to do as community and society. And so I think it's really important to think about it not as, again, this morning, not being an expense, but it's an investment, in terms of our communities.
You talked about international students there, and I want to get into that a little bit more. So we know that recently Ottawa moved to cap the number of international student permits federally, and that affects BC. We've done stories recently where SFU's been affected. They've had to lay off, about 100 workers, cut a program. How does a cap like this affect UFE? Yeah,
so our enrollments here at the university, we've always tried to take a very balanced approach to domestic and international enrollments. So we set an internal target of about 25% of international students. And we've also set a target of it being a diversified student body. So I said before, 73 different countries are represented on our campus. The cap is actually, it's the number of, I won't get into too many details, but it's the number of applications that students that we can issue to international students. For us, because we're below sort of the provincial 30% cap, we're actually in pretty good place in terms of our overall enrollments and projections moving forward. But I think what's we're looking at a lot of the international market is really changing. It's changing rapidly. It used to be the day where you'd go out and you try and work with agents around the world, and they would send you students. Well, now it's about relationship building, often with other institutions that are around the world. So we're working more with international universities to do what they call 2+2s. So students do their first 2 years in their home country and then come and do their last 2 years at UFE. They either get a UFE degree or they get both degrees from both institutions. It's a lot more economical for some of the countries to diversify because some of the countries that we're working in aren't as in terms of their overall economic situation, don't have the same economic advantages that some other traditional international students came from. And so it allows them to do their first 2 years in Canada or in their home country, and then come 2 years and stay in Canada. That allows them to get a work permit for 2 years. for 3 years, and then they can then apply for permanent residency. And many take advantage of that. And it's one of the things that really attracts international students to come to Canada because of the opportunities that it affords in terms of having to come and be part of our communities and our labor force here. So for us, it's been, really had no impact on us.
What about at Kwantlen?
Well, the thing that we're seeing is actually it's hard to distinguish the effect of those caps from the effect of the way they have been discussed publicly. So we're finding that political figures across the country have been highlighting instances in which international students have been taken advantage of, largely in these small private career colleges, and speaking to that as Canada taking advantage of international students. And then the reaction is also widely publicized that we don't want as many international students in this country. And the combination of those things is that it makes us look less open to immigration, less open to diversification, and less interested in the care and well-being of international students, which in instances like KPU and UFV, we've taken incredibly seriously. This is a very important issue for us, making sure that the people who come to our institution from abroad have a good, safe, supported experience. And so we're finding that it's much harder now to go abroad and say, Canada is open for new Canadians, and this is what makes this country go and what makes it exciting and young and energetic and new, because of the way that we've handled this public conversation across the country. And I'm hoping that will change, because for KPU, we know that bringing the world to our part of the Fraser Valley is a big part of what we can contribute.
Guys, just blame Ontario, basically, is what we do.
Kwantlen Polytechnic University is not responsible for the content of this message. Ask your doctor before using this panel.
But I think one of the things that if there's a plea to this group, and I know this group is very well connected internationally, is to tell people Canada's safe. Canada's a safe place to come. Canada is open. We want your young people to come and join our safe communities here. That's the message we're hearing internationally when we go abroad, is that a lot of people, when I get asked, we have a campus in Chandigarh, India, as many of you might know. Parents are asking, is Canada still safe to come? Of course it's safe to come, right? We want you to come here, and we will ensure that you have an amazing educational and personal experience when you come. So I think if you have opportunities to share that in your networks, your connections when you travel, that'd be something that would be a plea from us, at least, to reinforce when you're traveling abroad.
And we're running a little short on time here, but another question I have is, there's lots of priorities in BC, from healthcare and housing. Tell us why governments, people here, investors should take interest in you, invest in you, right? So I'm going to start off with Kim.
Well, I think one of the big reasons, I mean, you said it, is every dollar invested in education is a 5-time multiplier out in the community, which has an incredible knock-on economic impact in terms of, I mean, it enables housing, it enables more jobs, it enables everything. And so, when we're talking about how do we build a workforce, and we're talking about not just, the government handing over millions of dollars to fund a whole bunch of people to do X, it really is an investment in the future of the province when they put this money forward. And so I don't mind my tax dollars going to pay for things such as that. I hate seeing private interest programs get funded, but when I look at something like education as a whole, it just stuns me that UFE hasn't received additional funding. Like, the funding model hasn't changed for so long. It's just stunning to me that we, as a province, for some reason, just have not taken this seriously for a long time now. But we are falling behind other provinces and other countries, and we have to step up and just do better.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the same 13 years that Skilled Trades BC has received flat funding, Alberta has received increased investments. And I'm already seeing very serious concerns in our industry. The Women in Trades programs at Camosun College and Okanagan College have both been canceled in the last 6 months, and that's due to a lack of funding. So while that funding stayed like this over 13 years, what have your bills done over that 13 years, right? How is that sustainable? Anecdotally, every domestic seat in trades is subsidized by an international student in trades. That's crazy. They're going to graduate and pay taxes tomorrow, right? They're going to be in school for 6 weeks and paying taxes right away. These are well-paying jobs, and we need to invest in them. And when we lose programs like Women in Trades, we're losing safe spaces for women. We're losing safe spaces for people from diverse backgrounds, our Indigenous tradespeople, and they won't stay in our industry if they don't have somewhere where they can go and have conversation and feel safe. People from diverse abilities. My husband is who's not here? He's not over there. And I'm only saying this because he's not here. So he's severely dyslexic. He couldn't read. He was a pilot child for Hooked on Phonics. When I met him, his company was earning $100,000 in gross revenue. His new company was already successful other places, but this year we're on track to make $17.5 million. Right? We are funding people's families, and I didn't graduate from university, but I depend on my students going to UFE. I depend on them going to KPU for high quality education, and our schools are subsidizing that. And I just want to say, thank you to the trades training instructors, people like Ted Zach at UFE, who's actually out with my crew this month and making sure that he stays up to date. Like our schools are there, we need the funding, and they're going to be paying taxes in 6 weeks. So.
What about you, David?
This husband joke is one of my key takeaways.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also that I texted my wife to say the premier opened for me today, but no big deal, right? So I think that the reason to invest in a place like KPU, and I think to some extent this is going to be true for UFV as well, but it's a roll up your sleeves university, right? Makers, doers, creators, and builders go to an institution like mine. We don't just have an animation program. We have the tradespeople that can build the stage, the animators who can put down the green screen, the design school that can create the clothing, the interior design, and the product design for the objects, and then virtual effects artists that can make all of this magical at the end. That's what a place like this is for. And so we focus very strongly, and you saw in those recent programs I mentioned, and those kinds of things where you finish, you graduate, you get off the stage, you're either working already or about to be directly in that area, because we know that the economy needs this as an engine, and we'll keep that engine going if we keep fueling it properly. And so far, we've been able to do quite a lot of that, and we need to do more.
And James?
Yeah, and just picking up, what a great ROI that is, right? Think about that impact in your community, about having, and it's not just students, it's faculty and staff as well. We talked about the economic impact that those jobs have as well. We talked about the contribution that the skills that students come out with. Research, something we haven't talked about yet. $5.6 billion of externally funded research here at UFE, and 200 of those projects, those research projects, are in community, dealing with community issues. Mayor Siemens is over there. We have a project with City Studio around addressing, students tackle issues that municipal leaders are struggling with and trying to tackle together and come up with solutions. And so it's that in community, for community kinds of solutions that institutions like KPU and like UFE make us such a good ROI. We check all the boxes. We've reduced our CO2 emissions by 34% since 2009. We're building 400 new beds to reduce, to help alleviate some of the housing crisis. We're a partner with community. And when you invest in institutions like ours, the community just benefits and gets stronger and can do more and more things with that.
So I guess whatever, the workforce that we're investing in, it's all for the Fraser Valley, the boom that we're going through and continuing to go through. So, you talked about the importance of getting to those students when they're young, showing them those opportunities that exist, still the gaps that are out there, and where that funding can really help elevate their careers, where they choose to be and live. So I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that any of you wanted to add?
Can I just put in a plug for Skills Canada BC? So in Skills Canada, Baneet is actually a past competitor, and she credits that with part of her career. So we are also incredibly fortunate in Abbotsford to host the provincial skills competition. So April 2025, send me an email. I'd be happy to walk you around. It's amazing. We have amazing talent. We have amazing instructors all around this province, and it's so cool that we get to showcase that here.
Thank you. And David?
Call me, basically. David.burns@kpu.ca. I don't hear enough from business leaders and NGO leaders and these kinds of people that I can build these educational experiences for. And so we'll go to these things, and every year we'll talk, I wish the government fixed this, I wish this group fixed that, or that industry fixed that. The people in this room can solve almost all of those problems, right? It's like when Paul Ryan used to complain about Donald Trump. Everybody else gets to do that except for you, because you can actually do something, Paul Ryan. And that's kind of the situation that I'm in here, that I can't just point outside of my work for solutions. I'm meeting with the people in the room right now who can fix some of those things. So if you need skilled people in different areas, call one of us up, right? And we can work on that with you and have a conversation, and maybe there'll be free cookies there too.
I'm sure we all love cookies. James?
And I just want to encourage all of you to consider yourselves educators as well. 44% of our students have a work integrated experience as part of their program. Lesa and Kim shared some great examples of in their sector and their industries around how they're engaging students in that learning process. But doing more with business and with industry, as part of a student's learning journey is really important. And so we really want to send out the invitation to you to consider yourselves one of our educators too, because our students learn best when they're applying their skills alongside leaders in our community like yourself.
Importance of collaboration, hey? Working together and really shaping the workforce and making it thrive. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
So you sign off from CBC?
Oh my gosh, stop.
From CBC.
No. You tried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Wonderful. Such great energy, and what a great way to not end the day. The day's not over, but to see that there is a future. Just take your time. It's okay. You own the building, so you can stay up here as long as you want.
All right, so.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's nice to hear vision. It's nice to hear future, except that it was 7 years, was it? 6 years, 7 years? We have to start telling people. So what's coming in 7 years, like AI has just recently shown up, or generative AI. What's coming in 7 years so we can start talking about to our grade 9s and grade 10s? That's going to be quite interesting. I am, as when I was introduced earlier today by Kevin, it was supposed to be funny. And it was, right, Kevin? Yeah, you were very funny. And but the reality was that it's because I'm representing the A440 Foundation, which is our charity, our family charity. We've been making a lot of. Wow, I didn't even see him. He's dressed in black. You don't even see him going back and forth. It's so awesome. We've been for 15 plus years, been supporting different programs quietly under the radar. Then the retirement thing happened, and then so what I did is I became irrelevant, and then I got bored, and I thought I'm going to just ramp up our foundation because it's only really just been my lovely wife Connie and I running it and doing it all quietly in the background, giving bursaries, etc. So what sparked me to bring this up now is that this group here was all talking about the age group that I've decided to make my board of advisors out of. And I am so blessed with the young ladies currently that are on that group. They're young emerging leaders is how we're determining them. And I'm telling you, I have got such more energy for how this community can go, and such more energy and larger vision, because they don't need glasses, but larger vision for what we can do with small incremental change. And that's how we look at it. We look for ways in which at A440 Foundation, you can find us on Instagram, and the website's coming soon, is giving hands up, not hands out. Because hands out, they're emergency, but we want to make a difference. Exactly like the educators are up here, is you plant the seed and you help it grow. And so on the board, that's what we're doing, and also in the communities, that's what we're doing. So if you want to support A440 and get a tax receipt, to quote the other great philosopher, Blondie, call me. Call me. Because it does make a difference. Wow. Okay, so there's a few panels. There's some information. There's some conversation. I like the word spicy. Spicy came up a few times. It could have been spicier. I think most of the leaders panel are gone, except one or two. But yeah, it was good to see spicy, good to see disagreement. It's good to see conversation where it doesn't end in, you're an idiot, which is exactly what happens in our society nowadays. And that's why collaboration is so important for us to come together, even if we have differing opinions. And we don't have a differing opinion, so I'd like to call up for comments about how the day is, and I think we should also give them a really, really big congratulations on being brave enough to put this together and making it entertaining enough that you actually sat through a whole day of economics and panels. That's a big deal. So please welcome the Fraser Valley Business Coalition back to the stage for short little comments.
Keep it really brief because it's the end of the day. Absolutely. And we got a podium back. Look at that. That's magic. How's everyone doing? You good? Yeah? This is good. Thank you again. Thank you for being a part of today and helping to shape this this first ever Fraser Valley Economic Summit. You know, we heard so much from the panelists, from our speakers about what's needed from government, what's needed to help power businesses forward and power our economy forward. But the thing that I'm left with is that question around what can we do? What can we and you as leaders in the business community do to power things forward? And this is the first example of it. Coming together like this to map out what we want to focus on, what we can speak with a united voice on. And that's what the Fraser Valley Business Coalition is all about. Your chamber leaders from all of the communities that we talked about today are here to unite that voice and make sure that the issues that matter to you are heard at every level of government, specifically as we head into more provincially focused conversations, but to make sure that the message is united. And so we want to work with each of you going forward. You'll hear from us in the next couple of days with some follow-ups from the event. If you loved a particular panel and you want to listen to it again, don't worry, you'll be able to. We've recorded them. We've got great notes from all of the speakers, so there will be resources and information sharing all along the way. But there'll also be an opportunity to stay connected, because this is just one event in a wide range of the activities that we will be doing going forward to make sure that that united voice is heard loudly across the entire region and also across British Columbia. So with that, thank you all for being a part of today. I want to thank my colleagues. This was an amazing event to be able to come together. And with that, we're going to get off the stage and let you all have a good time and enjoy the rest of your night. But thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, but wait, before you go, there's that thing. There's the people who pre-registered for a reception.
Oh yeah, there's the thing.
That's upstairs. And you know what? There might even be some extra spots because some people didn't show up, so you might want to check at the front.
Okay.
I'm allowed to say this.
Talk to the people at the front.
I'm allowed to say this. La 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 la. If you don't have drink tickets on the back of your thing, you didn't get invited. No, but anyway, there are a bunch of people who weren't able to show up. Check the front, see if there's any room upstairs. I know it was really sold out, really sold out for the reception. But from my perspective, I am so impressed at how many people stayed focused throughout all of this economics conversation and were engaged and had fantastic conversations and allowed me to say some really silly jokes and pretend I was a bit of a stand-up comedian at the same time as to help you get through this day. Thank you very much to every single one of you for showing up and having such a great time. And I hope to see you again at a future event. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. Music, please.
With yellow feathers in her hair and a dress cut down to there, she would merengue